Hi there, welcome to Focus 15 with the Spanish Grammar Guy, here to help you with your Spanish grammar. Today we're going to explore irregular verbs in the present tense in Spanish. Irregular verbs are a little different because they don't follow the usual conjugation rules and patterns of regular verbs. But don't worry, by the end of this video you'll understand how they work and know some key examples. So let's get going. What are irregular verbs? What makes a verb irregular? Normally, regular verbs in Spanish follow a predictable pattern. Verbs end in AR, ER, or IR, and they have particular endings. For example, the verb hablar, yo hablo, tú hablas, él habla, and these follow the same AR pattern of endings at the end of each of the conjugations. The same with ER verbs or IR verbs. They follow a certain pattern. But irregular verbs don't follow those patterns, which means their stems, the beginning of the verb, or the ending, could change unexpectedly. It's like they have their own special rules. But there are types of irregular verbs, and so there are certain patterns you will come across even with irregular verbs. So here are the most common types of irregular verbs in the present tense, and we'll go through three groups with examples. We have stem-changing verbs, verbs that are irregular just in the yo form, the first person singular, and then completely irregular verbs. So let's first have a look at stem-changing verbs, also known as radical-changing verbs. Stem-changing verbs have a vowel in the stem that changes when conjugated for the different subjects. And there is a pattern in these verbs because the change happens in all of the forms, all of the subjects, except for nosotros and vosotros. For example, if we look at the verb poder, to be able to, we say yo puedo. So the o becomes u e in this example here. Tú puedes, again, the o in poder becomes u e, puedes. But when we go to nosotros, it becomes podemos. So the o comes back in. And for vosotros, it becomes podéis. And then when we go to ellos, ellas, o ustedes, it goes back again to the change. It becomes pueden. So we see how the forms change except for nosotros and vosotros. And the same happens, for example, to a verb like querer, to want. Yo quiero, tú quieres, él, ella, usted quiere. So we can see the change there from querer to quiere. But then when we go to nosotros and vosotros, the stem remains the same as the infinitive. Queremos, queréis. And then it goes back again to the stem from the first three, goes to quieren. Okay? So there are many verbs that have that stem change, that particular stem change, and we just have to look out for them, know what they are, practice them. There's no real shortcut to learning these verbs apart from finding out which ones change and which ones don't, and then learning them. So we also have verbs that are only irregular in the yo form, in the first person singular. So, for example, take the verb hacer, to do or to make. We have yo hago, but then the verb follows the regular pattern haces or haces, hace, hacemos, hacéis, hacen. Another example of this type of verb is salir, to go out, where the yo form becomes salgo, yo salgo. But the rest of the verb follows the pattern for IR verbs, yo salgo, tú sales, él, ella, usted sale, etc., etc., salimos. salís, salen. So these changes happen because the regular ending wouldn't sound very natural in Spanish. It's all to do with the sound. And then we have the final grouping, completely irregular verbs. Some verbs are completely irregular and don't follow any standard pattern. For example, the verb ser. Yo soy, tú eres, él, ella, usted es, nosotros somos, vosotros sois, ellos, ellas, ustedes son. And another one of these verbs is ir, to go. Voy, vas, va, vamos, vais, van. Okay, so as I said, I'm afraid there's no shortcut to learning these. You have to find out which ones are stem changing, which ones are completely irregular, which ones only change in the yo form, and then it's a question of learning them through practice. That's it for now. Please subscribe to Focus 15 with the Spanish Grammar Guy if you want more Spanish grammar tips, and see you soon. Thanks for watching.